Once the oil has come to a drip and it's not actively flowing anymore, I'm pretty much done. So I'm going to close the nozzle and then use a rag to clean any remaining oil here. Alright, the next one is going to be the oil filter. In order to get the oil filter, there are a variety of tools that you can use to remove the filters. In this case, I'm going to use an oil filter wrench. It just goes on it, it attaches to a ratchet, and in this case I'm using a short extension for better clearance. And in case you're curious for the size of the wrench, it is going to be an F type. Okay, just gonna wipe out any residue on it. Take the wrench in, loosen it, and then once it's loosened, you don't need the wrench anymore until you're ready to install the new one. So set it aside. Move your oil pan over to where the oil filter is, because oil is going to drop from this point as well. So just hand loosen it, and as you can see right here, oil is going to start dripping down. So make sure you have a rag handy. So let it slowly drip into your oil pan. You can keep turning it so that it comes out smoother and faster. And this is a dirty job, so if you're worried about getting your hands dirty, this is probably not the job for you. Okay, so we're gonna wait for this to drain until it comes to a drip, and then the remainder of it is just twist it and remove it. And then after that, we'll wipe it down with a rag and make sure the surface is ready to mate with the new oil filter. While I wait for the remainder of the oil to drain from the oil filter location, I'm going to prep the new one. You can determine which type of oil filter you need to get, either from your dealership or from one of the service manuals. You can find at auto shops. To prep it, I'm just going to take my oil of choice. You can also get this information from your service manual or an auto shop little information booklet. I'm going to pre-fill my oil filter with some fresh oil so that when it's installed and running for the first time, it doesn't run dry. So I'm going to fill it about a quarter weight, and that's good enough for installation. For my specific car, when replacing the oil along with the oil filter, it takes 4.4 quarts of new and fresh oil. You can find out that amount on in your factory manual that comes with the car. Once all the remaining oil is dripped out, clean off any residue left on the surface, and then take your new filter and just screw it in place. And then we're all good. Now it's time to head back up top and put fresh oil in the engine. Grab a fresh batch of motor oil that's graded for your car. For my specific application, it's 4.4 quarts. So that's what we're going to fill into the engine. Remove the microfiber towel I use to protect the fill hole in the oil dipstick hole. I'm going to put the oil dipstick back in to measure the amount of fresh oil that I'm going to be putting in, and then grab a funnel and use it to safely channel all the new fluid in so that it doesn't spill anywhere. I'm going to place the funnel in place. Make sure there's no debris inside of your funnel that you're using. take the fresh batch of oil and pour in 4 quarts. This first process should go pretty fast. It's when you get lower and need to properly measure that 0.4 at the end that you got to be careful. The next step is to check the oil dipstick to ensure that I've filled my engine with the proper amount of oil. So if you can see here, the glossy part, it's all the way up to the full mark. So we're good to go. I can remove the funnel now and then take my oil cap, put it back on. And if all you're doing is changing your oil, that's basically the last step. The next thing on the list is to replace the cabin air filter, or at least check it. This is the glove box. Open it up for this specific model. Remove this little hinge right here. All of these just require your hand. There's no tool necessary. And then this next one is going to require at least 2 hands. So you have to apply pressure on this side and on this side. There are 2 hinges on the glove box that secures it into place. I'm going to try and do it with one hand. Okay, so that releases it. Take the glove box, set it aside. And this right here is the cabin air filter. Just pinch it to remove this cover. And then this right here is the actual filter. You can take it out to inspect. It is pretty cramped in here, so take your time just sliding it out. And then check it to see if it needs to be cleaned or replaced. In this case, I have a reusable cabin filter, and from the looks of it, it is filtering some debris. This is the clean side, so make sure the clean side is clean. If it's not, then there's some sort of leak and the filter isn't working and it should be replaced. Or if you have warranty on these reusable ones, claim your warranty. I see only small debris, nothing too bad. If you look right down here, there's no debris in here either. It is dusty though, so what I'm going to do is vacuum all the debris out of the filter and then just wipe down the interior and then reinstall the air filter. Once the filter's all clean, slide it back in. Take the little cover, snap it into place. And then replace the glove box. Pay attention to these little notches here. That's where it corresponds to these points right here. Snap them in place. And then arch it up. These tabs right here, they're on each side, should snap into place as you lift it up. Take this hinge that we detached earlier, and as you push up on the glove compartment, it'll align to that point, and then just snap it into place. Like so. And once you do that, you're pretty much done. The glove compartment can close. Make sure it actually closes. If it doesn't close, that means it's not aligned at one point, and just redo it. Take your time. That's pretty much how you inspect or replace your cabin air filter. Before I start rotating my tires, I'm going to go over some of the markings on the sidewall. Right up here you'll see Dunlop. That's the name of the manufacturer, so whoever you buy the tires from, they'll have their name stamp on it, like Toyo or Michelin or Continental. Right below that you'll see an arrangement of numbers and letters. 235 tells you that this tire measures 235 millimeters in width, and then the 45 is the aspect ratio of the section height to the section width. So if I combine this side with the other side, the section height would be about 45% of the section width. The R is not really something that consumers need to worry about. It's more for manufacturers, dealerships, or tire shops. It tells them how the tires are constructed, how they're built. In this case, the R stands for radial, and you'll see it right here on the left. It even tells you what it means, radial tubeless. I think there are like 2 other types of construction used, but don't quote me on that. The 17 over here is the diameter of your rim. In this case, mine would be 17 inches. So from one end of the rim to the other straight across is 17 inches. So that's how I know that this tire will fit my specific rim size. Right over here, this 94W, the 94 is the load index. It tells you how much weight the tire can support. You can find the actual weight on the load index. I think 94 is around 1,400 pounds, but I'd have to get the exact number out of the load index, which I don't have with me. The W tells you the safe speed rating, the max speed rating for this specific tire. There are several other letters used to categorize with different max speed. This W, I believe, rates this tire at around 160-ish. I'd have to look it up for the exact number. Circling around the tire in small print, you'll see it says max load, and for this one it's a 1,477. So it's telling you that the maximum safe amount of weight you can put on this tire is 1,477. Right next to that, it'll tell you the max air pressure that you can safely inflate this tire to. In this case, this one is 51 psi. For either of these, you can go over these numbers. These are just the safety numbers. If you go over these numbers, then obviously you risk damaging the tire, and if you're driving, then you risk damage and injury and possibly, ruining your car. So it's not recommended to go over these specs. So adhere to them as best you can. Make good decisions. As we continue around the tire, we're going to see some more markings where it says tread wear, traction, and temperature. In this case, tread wear is basically the life of the tire. It's more a theoretical life of the tire because driving habits of a person will vary. So like if you're doing burnouts, that is going to decrease significantly. The 280 is a number grade scale used by the National Highway Association. That's not the full name, but manufacturers does a controlled test, and then depending on the wear during the test, they'll have a grade selected for it. In this case, 280 is actually it's not too high. So as an average user, I'll probably have to replace this sooner than later, depending on usage. So traction and temperature have kind of like the same grading scales. They have 4 grades, I believe. It's AA, A, B, and C. So AA is like the highest grade you can get, and C is the lowest grade that you can get. Traction, I hope everybody knows what that means. It's just the grip of the tire on the pavement. Temperature is the heat and cold that the tire can endure, and these are all done in controlled environments, and these are the grades assigned to them based off of the test. So this is a second grade, since A is right below AA. And then for tire shops or for manufacturers, they'll have something printed here saying that this sidewall needs to be facing the outside of the car, and that's how you know which position to put it in. This one is not a directional tire, but if it was, the manufacturer would have like arrows pointing in a specific rotational pattern. That'll basically tell you that when you rotate your tires, you can't just move this wherever. It has to go front to rear and rear to front only, because they're only designed to travel in one direction. You'll kind of notice it too, based off of the design on the treads, because they'll only go in one direction. It's not to say that you can't flip them, which isn't going to be recommended, because that could potentially damage the treads or your tire, and it won't really run right. All right, other than that, all the other markings, it's not anything that anybody needs to be concerned about. The ones I pointed out are the primary ones. For tire change or tire rotation frequencies and pattern, refer to your factory service manual